How's it going, y'all? Aiden Anderson here with Moscow Report. It's election season here in Moscow once again, and that means it's time for another round of Candidate Candids. In this series, we talk to candidates running in the local elections to learn more about them, their platform, and what they hope to do in office if elected. We're focusing on the city-level races this year, and in this video, we've got Moscow City Council candidate Scott Sumner. Let's get into it. Scott, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I've been asking just because it is the last few weeks of the campaign season. How have things been going so far?
So far, so good. Most of the people that I talk to are very excited, and I sum it up to maybe I'm just talking to the people that support me. I've been trying to reach out to as many people as I can, but yeah, it's been a very positive experience, and I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from people.
Good to hear, good to hear. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first time you've done any sort of campaigning for a position, or have you done stuff before?
I have never ran for anything, not
Okay.
for city or school body president, nothing before. This is my first campaign.
Gotcha. So I asked that because I want to ask, when it comes to the actual campaigning process, how have things measured up so far compared to, say, what you thought it was going to be versus what it actually has been like?
I am very fortunate. I have a fantastic team. A lot of them just went through the library board elections and campaign season. So for me, it's very simple. Say what I mean, say how I feel on the topics, and they're helpful on all the other things as well as shaping just some of the conversations. I know how I feel. I know how I would discuss things, but they're really good at the details. So they've been very helpful and supportive, and they put in a ton of work. So it gets me excited when other people also are excited and putting in work. It makes it so much easier, for me to do that.
You just have the synergy of people who are motivated to do things, and then that just keeps everybody's spirits high the whole time.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to ask then, since you mentioned never having run for anything before, why run for city council now?
That is the million-dollar question, and really, in the grand scheme of things, it comes down to my kids. As they continue to get older and they're growing up, you start thinking of them as like, wow, they're going to be adults, they're going to move out, and what kind of city, if they choose to live in Moscow, do I want to have for them, or do what they want to have? And so that's kind of the biggest one, is you start thinking about some of those things and our responsibility to continue to grow this city and provide opportunities for the kids, and not just my kids, but the community, and provide those opportunities that we had as kids, or I had as a kid.
Which opportunities do you see as most at risk that you're interested in protecting on that front?
I would say, for me, in the public schools, I feel like I always was prepared for the next one. So I went through Lena Whitmore. That prepared me for middle school, or the junior high at the time. The junior high and did a fantastic job. I was prepared for high school. My high school education really prepared me for the U of I. And then the U of I, as a civil engineer, when I hit the ground running and started working in the industry, I felt like they did a fantastic job of getting me ready, because a lot of, especially in the college education and before that, you're learning to learn things, so eventually you can learn the things that you need to learn to do stuff. So I felt the U of I did a fantastic job of preparing me for my career, and so that's one of the ones that public schools are a hot topic right now, with a lot of what Idaho legislature is doing, and I think Moscow does a really good job of supporting them, but it's one of those things that needs work. City council doesn't really have a role in that, but I feel like city council does set the tone from hearing from the community and really doing a good job of guiding the community. So I think that's one of them. Housing is the biggest issue I hear from a lot of people, because a lot of people are either being forced out of their homes, in some of the cases with some of the mobile home parks. There are people who aren't able to live here, as well as, like, for myself as an employer, we've struggled and never been able to hire somebody from out of town to move here. When they look at the housing prices, and they're like, there's no way I can live there. I can make more money in X, Y, and Z towns and the housings are so much cheaper. So we've struggled to hire And I know we're not the only business and industry to be able to do that.
And it does sound to me like there's a lot of different facets to the issue, but a lot of it seems to strike towards, okay, there's future instability that you're seeing as part of the equation that the city needs to be focused on. In what ways it can focus on that?
Yep.
How do you break that down? And maybe it can't be. Maybe it's more you have to do what you can with what you have. But how do you think about turning that into objectives to accomplish while you are in office?
So take housing. As a civil engineer, like housing development, that's the most relevant thing to me. It's a very easy topic to talk about. You hear a lot about, well, it's a national thing. It's a whole state of Idaho problem. But that is the case. Like, we are not insulated. It's not a problem in housing. That is just our little region. But if we just sit back and say, well, it's the market, and we just react to whatever the market does, I feel like that's just passing the buck or being asleep at the wheel. I think we need to be active. I mean, we be proactive in the things that we can do and try and control the things that we can. And then looking for opportunities to grow that and utilize resources that maybe we haven't had, or adjusting zoning codes. Or there's a lot of small things we could do incrementally. So in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, like, there's a difference. And it's a market forces. Like, oh, it's market forces, and that's just what houses are. And I feel like that's just being asleep at the wheel and not really addressing the problem and just leaving it to whatever happens. And
you either end up kicking the can down the road, or it ends up being a cop-out where it's like, well, you could do something, but you're afraid of XYZ option being on the table, and you'd rather just ignore that subject and pursue something else.
And people don't see immediate improvements right away. It's a long process. And if you don't see results in a year, people are going to say, oh, geez, I can't believe you guys spent money on that. Well, if they don't see results in 2 years. But I think City Council, part of our strategic planning and the comp plans and some of those things, we're looking 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years in advance. So that's what we're setting goals and setting policy for. We're not, there's no quick fix that tomorrow housing prices are going to be affordable and everybody's going to be living in the house of their dreams and making all their dreams come true. Like,
Right.
We'll never get there, but we need to be active. We need to be strategic in the things that we can control to be able to alleviate the concerns that people have and the issues that are there today.
And I think if anybody has spent any time looking at housing development from any perspective, they're going to realize it takes time. It seems like it's more an issue of communicating that time frame to people who otherwise are looking at the problem in a more urgent, we need it now sort of way, because they want the immediate relief. Do you see solutions then that would make sense to the people who are clamoring for immediate relief? Or is everything sort of like, hey, this is going to take time, we're going to get through this, but we need to be patient on this front?
There's some of the immediate things. I know a lot of the mobile home parks, the concerns with the Hearst and Sons coming in and buying a lot of those, and rents have been increased. And on that front, developing some educational matter for people in those situations. A lot of them we can't control because it's private industry, but there's some things that the city can do now. Sojourners does a good job of trying to house people and acquire funding. I worked on a project down in Lewiston for unhomed teens, and so the LC Youth Resource Center, and they have acquired grant funding with the government shutdown right now. It's on hold, but they've acquired grant funding to put unhomed teens that are looking for somewhere instead of living on the streets. They can put them in hotels. So there are some immediate grant. When the government does open, there are some opportunities immediately that, it's not going to be tomorrow, but if it's in months, 6 months, a year, like, we need to start working on those today, and then setting ourselves up long term.
It seems to me that if you can take action now, you can at least start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, as opposed to not taking action initially and then, well, I guess we'll get there when we get there, but we have no idea when we will because we can't see.
Yeah, I think of it a lot of some of the new subdivisions and developments that people see, and they go, oh, geez, they just don't look like Fort Russell. Well, because the trees aren't 35 years old. You know,
Right,
and you
right,
think about
right, yeah.
and you think about that, it's like, well, in 15, 20 years, those neighborhoods are, some of them are going to start growing up, and they'll look like, when 6th Street came in, and now it's starting to fill out with some of the trees, and it starts feeling more of like the Moscow feel, and we're a Tree City, USA, and there's a reason for that. We have gorgeous trees around
Indeed,
here,
indeed.
and it just takes some time, and I think of that as housing as well. It takes some time, but we need the actions now for those to pay off in the future.
And like you said at the beginning of all this, you're thinking of your children, for the other children, I assume in their generation, who are going to be coming of age to where they're going to want to start families and buying houses and that sort of thing. Right around the time that, hopefully, if you take action now, if I'm tracking with what you're saying, then they'll be able to experience that for themselves in a fulfilling way that will secure something for the future.
Absolutely.
Switching gears a little bit, because you brought up being a civil engineer. I have friends at the U of I who are in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. What makes, I know nothing about what it means to be a civil engineer. So describe the job for me.
Civil engineering, a lot of what we do is roads, streets, utilities. Those are the areas of civil engineering that I really focus on, in stormwater. The other parts of civil engineering are structural engineers, like bridges and some of the larger buildings, wastewater engineers. So civil engineering has a large breadth of skills and knowledge. I like to think of civil engineering as it's like the base of our city. It's all the things that a lot of people take for granted, and you don't really realize it until it doesn't work. And a lot of that's civil engineering. So I always say, like, if I do my job right, you never hear about me, and I never want to hear from that. But if the roads don't work, or there's potholes, or your sewage is plugged, or there's some issue, then you're going to notice it. So as far as the other engineers, I always like to say that civil engineers are the most personable ones. We deal a lot with the public, a lot of other architects, other engineers, city officials. So we deal with a lot of it. a lot of what I do is dealing with people, and I really like that aspect of it. So, but that's, as far as engineers go, it's it's still not a very public-facing field.
No, fair enough, fair enough. And it's interesting because I think I've seen some conversations, and I wish I understood more of some of the technical stuff that's going on there, because they seem like fascinating problems to solve. Would you be able to give examples of some of the more interesting civil engineering problems or challenges you faced in the course of your career?
I will say that Moscow and Pullman is a fantastic place for our farms. And a lot of that is because we have clay soils, so the water doesn't go down. It's like a big bowl, which is great for farming. That's why we don't have irrigation on our farms, and why, we're one of the top wheat producing counties in the United States. It makes it a lot challenging for development. Speaking of like the Eddington subdivision, once it starts raining, it turns to just thick clay. And so our construction season is very short. And that's one of the challenges we have as building homes, is our construction season really starts in beginning of June, and then by end of November, or mid-November is when asphalt plants close, and that's our construction window for a lot of earthwork, paving, utility work. Because of our unique infrastructure and soils, that's it. Everywhere else in Spokane, Lewiston, they can build year-round. So it's a lot easier for them to build more homes. We have a very finite window, and our projects have to be limited to do them successfully to that window. So
Gotcha.
It really, in terms of engineering, that's one of the things that people are like, oh, why can't we build 60 homes a year? And it's like, well, we don't have the workforce, but two, our surrounding area with hills, which also makes it a little more challenging, because you have to move a lot more dirt. And so there's a lot of factors that come into play that can be very, very challenging. Stormwater, Idaho just in the last couple of years has updated their stormwater regulations to protect our streams. And so because the water doesn't go down, we have to have detention ponds. And so that adds another aspect to the whole development, because you're using up space that could be used for homes for stormwater detention. So those are some of the things particular to this area that I think people don't really think about on a regular basis. But that's something that unfortunately for me, which I really get excited about, those are things I deal with on a daily
No,
basis.
yeah, because you get to solve the problems involved, even if it creates, well, just more challenges for the building element of it. So you've talked about some of the challenges, difficulties associated with the area we live. Is there anything that you would look at from like a city administrative or regulatory perspective that would represent challenges to you, or is the city actually doing a pretty good job on that front?
I think the people at the city do a pretty good job. I've talked to a couple of people at the city yesterday, and a lot of people talk about, oh, the regulations are killing us. Well, if you built a home, and this is not my words as a city official, if you built a home that just met code, nobody would want to live in it. I mean, there's certain things of you don't have to write a wall every room. You don't have to do certain things. And like, if you built a house just to code, like, no one would want to live in it.
Fair enough.
So, in terms of some of the regulations, it does take time, and the time costs money. And I've been a frequent person who's been critical of the city on their time frames, but they got to make sure it's right. When a subdivision gets built, they're the ones who are going to have to take care of the roads. They're the ones who are going to have to, it all gets dedicated to the city. They're going to have to ones who are going to be stuck with it in perpetuity. So they really have to make sure it's done right. They're the ones who have to answer to state officials and other things, or regulatory bodies. Why'd you let this happen? So they got to make sure everything is right, it functions, and that they don't get stuck with a maintenance headache long term. That takes time, energy, and money. And there are things I think that we could do to maybe speed up that, or make that process a little smoother. But for the most part, I would say the city of Moscow does a fantastic job compared to some other jurisdictions that have had roadblocks upon roadblocks on. So I think there are always ways to fine tune it and improve it, but I think for the most part they do a pretty good job.
No, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
And I deal with them on a very daily, weekly, monthly basis. So,
indeed. So if they're easy enough to work with on that front, that speaks volumes when it comes down to the overall, even if the impression from the outside might be different. Because I think that is a lot of what I've come to encounter in city politics is sort of an outsider perspective, understanding of what might be going on. And then once you attend a few meetings or speak to a few people involved, the picture can look very different. What do you see, moving into that subject a little bit, what do you see as possible chinks in the armor, so to speak, with the city when it comes to communicating and clarifying things like these issues?
Yeah, I mean, the city does a pretty good job of, they put a lot of things on their website. They do a lot of video, all city council meetings, but actually somebody deciphering some of that language. I think there are some areas that we can improve upon. I know, coming from a technical standpoint, speaking to a lot of the city council meetings, is you gotta learn to talk to people about technical issues in a non-technical way so they can absorb it. Because if you just talk over people, and I think that's a lot of it when we talk about the budget, we talk about some of the regulations and codes, is that we're not talking to people in a way that really they can absorb or understand, and that's part of the city, I think's role, which is a challenging one because you have 25,000 people here, and you have to relate to different people in different ways that can be challenging. So, I think the city, there are some areas of improvement, but everybody communicates differently. I'm not going to knock somebody because that's how they communicate, but I think. For myself, I talk to enough people in enough different backgrounds. I think that's one of the areas that I think I bring a lot to the table, is to be able to communicate and relate to a lot of people in the community.
And I think maybe this would just be my personal perspective on it, but being a civil engineer, being a part of the building side of things, sort of implicitly communicates that you're a part of the solution. You want whatever's going on, you want these people to succeed, and you're helping them get there in what ways you can, which I think depending on the people involved, they can have a more antagonistic relationship with governmental entities towards that. So it's cool to see that bridge building element being a part of basically just who you are and what you've been doing these past few years.
Well, in a lot of the civil engineering, the roads, the pipes, there's not a lot of extra in there. Like if you think about like a building, there's different paints and finishes and windows, and there's a plethora of things that could be different on that building to upscale it or downscale it. When we're talking about asphalt, there's asphalt. When we're talking about concrete, I mean, there's concrete. I mean, there's not a lot of fluff or extras in the infrastructure and civil engineering aspects that I deal with. So when people are talking about, oh, how expensive it is, like there's not areas really to cut in there. We just try and do what we can in the most robust way so that things last the longest. I know people talk about, it came up in the mayor's forum about the slurry seals and chip seals, and our roads are in constructions, and there's a lot of things that are coming out in the last 5-10 years in terms of asphalt to be able to preserve the asphalt that we have and lengthen the lifespan of that asphalt. So without getting too dorky about it, there's a lot of things there's a lot of things that we can do short term that just extends that life of things out before we have to tear open whole roads and make everybody's life miserable trying to get around town because everything's under construction. So I think the city is getting better at that, and it's a more cost-effective measures if we do preventative stuff than just keep rebuilding roads and rebuilding roads. So I think there's some things that in the last 5-6 years they've really done a better job at that. But you know, after 10-15 years, if you haven't done that, it doesn't matter what you do. That road, there's a lot of damage that's already been done. So there's some roads that we can't do anything about, but some of the newer roads we can really lengthen those out, and then as we rebuild roads, we can apply those preventative maintenance measures to extend our infrastructure.
And that's something where you're actually looking at extending the life of something for the sake of whatever future problems might arise in that. And then it becomes not just a responsibility that you're taking care of in the 4 years that you're in office, assuming it's just one term. Maybe you'll run again after you win this one, but assuming you win this one. But there's also this element of, okay, this is going to be something that people drive on long time past that I've been in office. So this is an opportunity to secure that for them and to build towards the future in a really meaningful way.
Well, and that's what I do every day. All the projects that I work on are long-term future. So that's just how I think. That's the part of, you get some benefits immediately, but it's also how do we extend this out? How do we give the most value for what we're providing? And that's really what I do every day. So that level of thinking, it's not something that's foreign to me. So.
This is maybe a little bit of an odd question, but I'm curious because there have been a lot of the same issues that have come up time and time again at these different forums, whether it's housing, water, infrastructure, transparency, all those sorts of things. Is there any issue in your conversations with the city or with people at the city, is there any issue where you're going into this race thinking, okay, if I win this seat, I'm going to need help on this one? Is there any issue like that that's still largely an unknown to you?
Not off the top of my head, but you did mention water and the aquifer, the pumping the water from the clear water. Just the engineering part of it really excites me.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know the aquifer it's very important, and without water we don't have a city. But just the fact that we're going to be pumping 35 miles of water up 1,000 feet, and just the engineering and science behind it, the engineer and nerd in me really gets excited about just looking into that and how the functionality of how it's going to work, because they can make it work. I mean, the thing about learning about engineering is there's so many things that we can do. There's very few problems that we can't find solutions to if we can be creative. So that one really kind of excites me. But so I didn't answer your question, but you kind of sidetracked me, and it popped in my head.
I think I'm going to end up being sold into exploring civil engineering more frequently from this.
Awesome. If I get more civil engineers out of this interview, it'll be a win.
Indeed. Switching gears briefly, talking about your time, because you're currently a member of the Transportation Commission, or formerly were?
I am currently the chair of the Transportation Commission.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about that. How did you get from interested in transportation of all things? I mean, you've talked about roads quite a bit, so maybe that's a part of it. But what's that been like?
Around I guess it was 2020 and around COVID, and thinking about how I could be more use to the city and to the community. Transportation, there's a seat that came open. I was like, well, this is kind of in my wheelhouse. I think there's things that I think I could provide to the Transportation Commission. I'm passionate about it. So I put my name in the hat, and at the time, Bill Lambert was the mayor, who, growing up, his house was behind a block away, and his kids were friends with my older brother, and so he proceeded to tell everybody at council that he remembered when Scott Sumner was this tall, and stories, and so that was a very interesting part of the transportation kickoff part. But I really like the transportation aspect of the things that we talk about as pathways, ADA access, the electric bikes and scooters that have been coming up lately, and how we as a city can function with the people moving in, through, and out of the city. So,
because there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of discussion on that front. I think just at the mayoral forum, there was the discussion of the South bypass that is going on, and
it's officially the South truck route.
Okay. South.
It's a truck route.
That is true. I've been seeing some clarifying things on that. Yeah.
Yes. So their intention is to allow trucks to move around, and it's primarily Whitman County who's kind of pushing that, and they started the study. So they are really trying to phrase it as a truck route and not a bypass.
And I remember it coming up in council pretty recently. The city was communicating with Whitman County about the truck route because, and that's just the interesting conversation of just how connected we are, because what's happening in Whitman County is going to affect what's happening over here in Moscow, just in the nature of roads being connected to roads in other places. And so that's just one of the interesting foibles of things that people have to deal with, I guess.
Well, I think it's an interesting opportunity, because if we can share resources with us or the university or even WSU and Pullman, the more we can share resources and share consultants, we can share construction costs, we can do those, the farther our dollars stretch. And that was the thing that I started looking when I went to that meeting and heard him talk about the truck route. And I was like, geez, why are we on the hook for X number of dollars? And then when they broke it down, I was like, okay, like this is really, we're a small drop in the bucket for what the potential of what we could get out of it. So I really thought it was a great collaboration between us and Whitman County, or it can be. It's still in the works. And the nice thing is we're not on the hook for anything. Like, we're spending our money on the study, but we're not locked into construction costs. We're not locked into excessive costs down the road. We're taking a small chance right now, and it could pay off significantly in the future.
And that's some of those things where people can get they can get short-sighted or they can get far-sighted, but in this case, it seems like there's a little bit more short-sightedness when it comes to the conversation I've heard surrounding this topic. So it's good to hear the clarity on that.
Well, and Whitman County and Pullman specifically have been looking at some way to fix their downtown. I think Moscow doesn't have as big of an issue. I mean, we have a little bit of traffic, but it's not nearly like our main street is in such better position and such more healthier position than Pullman's, because we don't have semis, trucks, and a state road going right through our downtown.
Right.
Our couplet really prevents a lot of it and makes our downtown as fantastic it is and walkable, and we can do a lot more things there. But that's really where this conversation has started for them. For Moscow, really looking at maybe getting farm trucks off of it, but I just don't see, I don't have a business downtown, but I don't see as big a need for us to solve this problem. Would we benefit from it? Yes. And as more traffic goes east and west from Moscow and Pullman, providing more routes, more safe routes, is a huge benefit. So I know a lot of people bike on that road right now, and it is not very safe.
Fair enough.
And a lot of, as they've done some repaving on it, that people are driving faster, and with bikes it can be a little more of a concern. So I think that if they can do some widening and do some improvements there to protect both bicyclists and cars, I think that would be a good thing, whether trucks drive on it or not.
Just speaking briefly on downtown here, I have heard people toss the idea up of making the whole downtown sector a car-free zone. I don't know if it's feasible with the way things are presently laid out, but is that the sort of thing that you would be just tossing it out here, is that the sort of thing you'd be interested in exploring? Would you take an idea like that seriously? What sorts of...
Not in the near future. And I just put a caveat because I will never rule out anything. It is interesting to see the amount of scooters, bikes, and electric vehicles, and the smaller electric vehicles. And it's interesting to see how that will change how people travel in that. But I don't see in the near, especially in a town like Moscow, the need or the benefit of removing all the cars from there. We have a pretty... The flow of traffic in downtown is not car to car and so compact all the time that it's causing issues. I think that right now it's at a healthy level. I think that there's no, if things aren't broken, don't try and fix them.
No, fair enough.
So,
fair enough.
In terms of some of the things I have heard, we do need to improve some of the ADA facilities in downtown. Some of the parking, the ADA ramps, our sidewalks. I know there's some talk of the downtown and redoing that, but there are some areas that we can improve on a small scale that can make significant improvements for some of the people that need those.
Just going back to the beginning of this briefly on the commission side of things, I know that's something that the city council often pushes on people in their audience when they're hosting meetings. As a chair of an actual commission, what do you think, for people who are interested, what advice would you give them when it comes to whether that's signing up for the Transportation Commission specifically or commissions in general?
Attend a commission. Before you sign up for a commission, I would advise you to attend one. And really, or attend a handful of them, attend different ones of what you're passionate about. It takes work to make the city run. It takes volunteers, it takes commissions. We really get to hear from the public. We hear from informally, but I would say attend a commission. And then if you still feel like you can provide things to that commission, yeah, I absolutely sign up. I've had a great time. I've met a lot of great people in a commission. You hear things and get perspectives from people beside yourself. And that's kind of one of the things that is big on me is you got to talk to the people that aren't yourself or don't think the same as you, so you can get a different perspective. So transportation's been great. We have the university has a representative there. Smart Transit has a representative there. I'm going to miss some and I'm going to get in trouble. There are various other entities that have representatives. ITD comes and talks to us. So we get some of those entities that transportation affects the most. And so it's really great to get updates and things that we can relate to the public as well.
Now that's advice I give people who are interested in the city side of things as well. It's like, well, if you haven't been around, I don't think you're going to know too much about what's going on. So please attend a meeting, find out what's going on, familiarize yourself with the people involved, have conversations, and then make decisions about what you think you might support or otherwise not support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, coming to the end of my questions, but I would like to give you the opportunity to tell people what you have going on, where people can reach you to find out more about your campaign, and what's next for Scott Sumner.
My website, sumnerformoscow.com, and I am going to be anywhere and everywhere I can. I'll be knocking on doors. I would love to hear questions, concerns that everybody has in the public. I'll answer as many emails as it gets sent to me as I can. I prefer not to have a 35-question essay format. If you can, as I'm an engineer, I'd prefer, like the quick bullet points. But I want to hear what people have concerns about. And I like talking to people, and I love getting people's perspective. So if people want to reach out, I would absolutely love for them to. There's the League of Women Voters that is coming up. As of right now, the New St. Andrews Forum, I am hopefully not going. No other reason. My daughter is playing soccer. And if they make it to the state tournament, that is when the forum is. And I've told a few people. I've told a few people there's some things that I have more than willing to give up for the campaign, for city council. But my daughter playing soccer at state is one of those things that I had to draw the line. So, but I'll be around. I'll be knocking on doors. I'm trying to think of any other events and forums. There's some articles in I think the Argonaut, some radio interviews as well. So feel free to reach out to me or my team. I definitely like talking to people and getting the word out and hearing people's concerns. because that's the job.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to your daughter, and thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
And that was my conversation with Scott Sumner. As with all candidates, I highly encourage you to check them out yourself so that you can go into the election well prepared and educated. We'll have the relevant links posted with this video, and as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm Aiden Anderson, and this has been Candidate Candids. We'll see you next time.